Welcome to the Bite Size Fitness Show, where we talk everything fitness, nutrition, and habits, and break them down into smaller, more digestible, bite-sized pieces of content for you to enjoy. My name is Sean Bikirk, and I am your host, and in today's episode, I'm going to be explaining the perks of being a beginner. So believe it or not, there are some advantages to being a beginner. There are some advantages to being out of shape. And before I go any further, let me just clarify, I'm not saying it's better to be a beginner. I'm not saying it's better to be out of shape. I'm not saying it's easier. Absolutely not. What I am saying, and I learned this from Alex Hormozi, is whatever situation you're currently in, you have advantages and leverage over those who have qualities that you aspire to become. So it's just about being able to identify what those leverages are and using them to your advantage. So that's what this video is all about. Not saying that it's better or easier, but saying that you do have some advantages that you can tap into and use to your advantage. So first and foremost, let's just talk about the huge growth potential. I can tell you from being someone who's worked out for years, over a decade, and really prioritize fitness, I do miss a lot of things early on in my fitness journey. And the huge growth potential means that where you are now versus where you'd like to be, there's a pretty big gap. And there's something about human nature that we find fulfilling in having really ambitious goals, dreams, and aspirations. So if you're able to visualize what it might feel like, what it might be like to have that healthy energy, the transformed body, whatever it may be, the more ambitious that goal, the more hope, the more you can visualize it, the better you feel, the more fulfilling that is. And as you get more fit or as you progress into your fitness journey, it's not quite as strong. You also get to fall in love with the process. And this is something I really miss, because when you first start exercising, when you first start eating healthy, when you first start seeing big differences in your health and your body, it's just an amazing feeling. It's why you hear people who are just starting a fitness journey and they can't stop talking about it. Your brain and your body just rewards you. There's something about the endorphins. I'm not sure if it's you get more endorphins or just a much higher intensity of when they're exposed versus someone who's been doing it for a long time. There's this principle called hedonistic adaptation, which means the first time you're exposed to something that feels good, it's going to be the strongest and most powerful, best feeling in the world type of thing. The more you get exposed to that, the less intense it is. It's like a drug, right? The first time you use a drug, it's going to be super intense, and then eventually your body gets kind of used to it, your brain gets kind of used to it, and you're always chasing that first high. Same thing with exercise. Much healthier habit, by the way. So exercise, nutrition, body transformation, health, all of that as well. The first time you really get into it, there is something absolutely beautiful about the process. So enjoy it, because the more you progress, the less intense that gets as well. It becomes less to do with enjoying the process and more to do with kind of, how do I explain this? I exercise not because exercise makes me feel amazing. It's because that's my baseline now. I exercise so I don't feel like crap. If I don't work out, I feel bad, right? So if you're just starting out, it's the exercise itself that makes you feel good. For me, it's the exercise that keeps me at baseline. And you're going to notice the more you progress, the more that's going to be relevant to you as well. So really enjoy the process now, even though it's difficult, even though there's a struggle, you might feel unmotivated, uninspired, you feel like you're never going to get there. Enjoy it. If you get any sort of pleasure and benefit, enjoy this process while you can. And then of course you got all the gains. It's the easiest time to burn fat, to build muscle, at least physiologically, at least theoretically. When you're just starting out, it's way easier to build muscle. It's way easier to burn fat because your body hasn't really tapped into those resources yet. So it takes a lot less effort to really see any differences. And this is where you can see some crazy fast transformations, just because the amount of effort that you would have to give to see a change in your health or physique is going to be much lower than the amount of effort that someone else who's been doing it for years would have to do. So really enjoy that. You got a huge efficiency advantage there, and you can start seeing changes a lot faster, which hopefully is going to really help with that motivation and inspiration of allowing you to keep going further, even and especially when, not if, things get tough. Believe it or not, motivation is actually stronger when you're beginning than it is later. So everyone thinks that once you get to a certain level of fitness, if you do it regularly, that you're motivated all the time. It's actually the opposite. So it's not motivation, it's inspiration. It's habits and systems, it's just automatic. But motivation usually comes from a really strong emotional pull that tells you have to change where your current situation is. So for example, motivators like fear and pain can really motivate us to change where we're at. Now, obviously, this isn't the healthiest thing long term, but those emotions are there for a reason. So your ability to take action when you're feeling those negative emotions will be much higher, will be much more likely than someone who doesn't really feel those same emotions. Some of you have seen this clip that went viral. I think it was Chris Williamson. He talks about, I think it's called the region beta paradox, where if you were to go somewhere a kilometer away or a mile away, let's say, you would probably walk it. But if it was 2 miles away, you would drive it. So it would actually be faster to get from where you are now to the 2 kilometers than it would be from here to 1 kilometers, which basically means sometimes a worse situation can actually be more beneficial. Because if you're at a situation now where you're feeling okay, right? You're not feeling great. You still wish you could lose some weight. You feel like a little bit more energy, but nothing too bad. The chances of you actually taking action to improve in that situation is going to be much lower than someone who maybe has hit rock bottom. Maybe you saw like a really humiliating picture. Maybe you got some really concerning blood work back. Whatever that reason is, the more the negative emotion, the stronger the motivation, the more likely you are to make a change, and the more likely you are to change your life for the better. So you're more motivated as a beginner, as someone who's out of shape, than you are as someone who's intermediate or even advanced, believe it or not. And then there's no pressure, right? So you're kind of working towards a new identity, or at least elements of a new identity with regards to fitness and health. You got nothing to lose. The more you get closer to this, the more of a positive feedback that you're going to get from your brain to your body, and you're going to want more and more of it. And then when you get to that point where it does become part of your identity, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to get positive reinforcement from your own brain, from your own body, but also from other people. But when you already have part of that as your identity, you're in this constant worry of losing it. So when you already get to the point where you transform your body, you've been doing it for years, a lot of people associate you as the fitness guy or the fitness girl. You feel like you always have to protect that reputation. And we're all humans. We all have periods of time where we're not exercising as well as we should. We're not eating as well as we should. We're not prioritizing our health or physique as much as we should. And when that starts to go down, we feel it. So you really get this negative emotion. It's a crappy feeling, I can tell you from experience. But not only do we feel it, but other people start to judge us for it as well. So it's a much more exciting transformation to work towards a positive identity than it is having to protect your own identity. And it's just human nature, unfortunately, but it's very true. Okay, so hopefully you can understand the angle that I'm taking on this video, right? Again, not saying it's easy, not saying it's better, just saying that there are some advantages and leverages that you can use to your advantage and hopefully get you to that point from where you are to where you want to be. Okay, so there are perks to being a beginner, even though it might not feel like it. Tap into those and you'll just see yourself transform a lot faster. And honestly, it's the best way to approach it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.